it takes a little second for it to start. Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. This is our October Bright Family Engagement Learning Session, and we're so excited. Tonight is, I think of all the topics, probably my favorite. And this is our series of our parent support series for the Bright Family Engagement team. Every month we start the first week of the month, the first Tuesday of the month, we start with an educational event. Last month we did one on when it's hard to go to school. And hey there, Bella. And this month, it's really about learning from the wisdom of young people about how we as adults and parents can best support their journeys around health and mental health. So I often think sometimes it's easier to get that kind of advice and wisdom sometimes from a kid who might not be your own kid, right? So really appreciate these fabulous folks who joined us that we're going to be talking to in a minute. So I want to quickly just introduce, and maybe folks can wave my fantastic colleagues on the family engagement team. So we got Lakeisha over there. That's Lakeisha. We've got Victor right there. There's Victor. And then we got Julie over there. And so the family engagement work that we do, as I said, we start the first week of the month with an educational event like this, and then we follow it up. Each month is themed, so we follow it up with the remaining weeks for support groups. So next week on October 10th, free online, any parent of a K through 12, or any parent who wants to come to support groups can come to support groups. They're free. October 10th is for parents of elementary kids. And if you are inspired by this thing tonight and you want to really connect with other parents and get support and, talk about it, October 10th, we have an East Coast version, a West Coast version, and those links will be in the chat on the YouTube Live. That's for parents of elementary kids. October 17th, that next week will be a support group for parents of middle and high school age kids, again, around the same theme. And then October 24th is our BIPOC affinity space for BIPOC parents to come together on October 24th. So each month we start with an educational event and we follow up with a weekly support group broken down by elementary school, middle, high school, and our BIPOC affinity group. November's theme is communicating around conflict, big feelings, and hot tempers. So that's the theme for next month. But for this month, again, it's learning from the wisdom and insights from young people about what young people can do, what young people can share with us about what we need to know about how to best support them. And hi there, Jaden. I see that Jaden joined us. So I think how this will go in a second, my colleague Julie hey Jaden, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. You're not too late at all, Jaden. So my colleague Julie is going to introduce each of our young folks who agreed to join and share some thoughts and wisdom with us. And we're going to have each of them speak for about 5 to 7 minutes. They're just going to introduce themselves. They're going to tell you who they are, what they like to do, who they are, and what they think is most important for adults to know, for parents and adults to know on how to best support young people's, mental health and ups and downs. So each of them are going to speak individually, and then Lakeisha and Victor are going to collect your questions. So on the YouTube live chat, drop any questions. You're going to hear from Ella and David and Bella and Jaden, and you're going to have questions for them. And so drop them in there, and Lakeisha and Victor will ask any questions that you drop in there. And so then we'll just have a conversation all together, and we have some questions ready too. And I think that's it. So Julie, I'm going to pass it over to you, and then big, huge thank you again to David, Ella, Jaden, and Bella.
Thank you all for being with us tonight. So I'm going to start with Ella. Ella Fairchild is a high school graduate from the Cambridge end of Weston and is currently in her sophomore year at George Washington University. She is 19 years old and has a twin sister, which is really awesome, who attends college. She is a political science major and enjoys going to brunch, seeing the monuments, and playing with her dog. And we've had Ella on before. She's going to be a really fun person to listen to. And Ella, we can't wait to hear what you have to say. So thank you for being here.
My goodness, thank you for inviting me. Well, welcome from the district. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. And I'm really excited about this new topic for the panel because I think that it's super important. And I feel like when I was growing up, there were so many things that I was like, I wish my parents could just know this, or like certain things. And so this is super cool of you guys to do. So a little bit about me. I'm currently, as you said, in my sophomore year of college, but I honestly still feel like I'm 15. Um, so lately I have been doing a lot of extracurriculars, but I've also been focused on my school. I think one of the biggest changes for me this year is certainly like familiarity. I think that makes a huge difference. Going to college or even like going into high school is just knowing that it does get better the more you become familiar with things. Because I, for one, do not like change. And then I think looking at some of the questions that is going to be discussed, I think that if there were to be like one thing that I wanted like my parents to know, is that sometimes when I'm like struggling or having a hard time, I don't want things to be fixed by them. I just want them to listen. And I do feel like people have heard that before, like, but I always like to stress it is that my parents are fixers. That's their thing. That's how they deal with hard things. And that's fine. Sometimes it's really helpful when I needed to figure out like math when I was struggling. But sometimes it's not really what I need. And so I definitely think like if your child is, obviously, if you're a parent watching this, then you know your child the best. But if you know that your child advocates for what they need, listening is really important. And then if you know that your child maybe doesn't advocate for what they need, try different things, try not fixing it and just trying to validate until your child feels as though they can advocate for what they need in certain moments, or if your child knows what they need in that moment. So yeah.
It's so helpful.
Thank you, Ella. All right. Our next speaker is going to be David. Welcome, David. And David, I'm going to mess your name up, but I want to say your whole name, and you might.
David, you want to say it, David? Do you want to say
yeah,
it?
can you say it for me, David?
David Harasme Gomez.
Oh, nice. I love it. David is 17 years old and is a huge believer in student advocacy. David loves basketball, movies, and comic books, and is considering that he's never been to school for the past 13 years. David thinks he would be a really good person to talk to about this stuff. So I'm really interested, David, to hear what you have to say, because you've got me really intrigued with this, not having been in school for the past 13 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for reading what I wrote. But the main thing I always felt like, as someone with an IEP and also someone whose parents are big believers in advocacy, I also believe that advocacy is the main thing I feel like teachers should take into account or teachers and adults should take into account when trying to think about what a student needs. Because if they're telling you they need something, I think that should always be taken seriously. I also think that at times maybe a student might not know how to advocate for themselves. Or for a while, I didn't know how to advocate for myself, and my mom would just do it for me. But obviously, as they get older, they should be able to hone those skills. So I believe that sometimes it's on the adult, especially if the kid is young, to realize what their students' limitations are and be able to accommodate them individually. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but I think that's the number one rule or just piece of advice that I could give adults about how to best support certain kids, because not every brain is the same. Some students are going to like a lecture. Other students are going to want to have a visual environment. Other students are going to want to be able to feel some of the stuff that they're learning. They're going to want it to be interactive or play a game. So there's different ways that people learn. And I think it should be equitable instead of equal learning.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David. All right. So next we have Bella. And Bella says that her name is Bella, obviously, and she is a senior at Wellesley High School. I started working with Bridge in the 10th grade, and I am now an alumni who regularly checks in and utilizes a space when I need some help managing schoolwork. Outside school, I work at a bakery and enjoy walking with my dog. And Bella, you might explain what Bridge is too. People may not know what that is, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so Bridge is a program that is at my school, it's at some other schools, and the purpose of Bridge is if either a student is out for a period of time due to medical absences, or if they're struggling with school, Bridge is a space to help students kind of essentially bridge the gap between school and their home life and get them caught up on homework. And it's also a space, like for me, if I have to take some tests or quizzes and I need some extra time, Bridge is a great place for that. And Bridge has been a great place for me because if I have like a lot of work, I can sit down with a teacher in Bridge and just plan out all my schoolwork, which assignments I should prioritize by due date. And it's just a great support system to have in place. And I think it really helps with like time management. And I think sometimes it can be really hard going from middle school to high school and kind of that big leap in learning how to, manage your work with all these classes and more teachers. And I think Bridge was super helpful in helping me really focus and learn how to prioritize what to do first.
And Bella, do you have any suggestions for parents about, what kids need in terms of their mental health? Any thoughts on that?
I definitely kind of am echoing what Ella and David already said, but I definitely think that listening is a huge help. Like sometimes the issue doesn't necessarily need to be fixed. Rather, it's just about listening and trying to empathize with your kid about how you feel. I know I feel that way sometimes with my parents, but also, listening. And then if it's a situation in which your kid needs help, learning how to help your child advocate for themselves or advocate for them if they feel like they're not being heard, and kind of being that support for your kid, not just, doing things, but really listening and supporting your children to help them learn how to advocate for themselves.
Great. Thank you. Megan, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I can go after Jaden.
Okay. All right. And our last speaker on our panel is Jaden. Jaden Duran. Thank you, Jaden, for being here. And Jaden is 16 years old and was born and raised in New York. Jaden is pure Dominican and is in the 10th grade and plays many sports, but the main sports are football and soccer. And when Jaden grows up, Jaden would like to be a professional soccer player. But your dad says Jaden's dad says to have a plan B. And so Jaden's plan B would be to be a social worker and work with people and their emotions. Yay!
Yes, we got some social workers in here, Jaden.
Yeah, I'm not, but I love a good social
Me and
worker.
Lakeisha are.
And Jaden was inspired to work with kids their own age and see how different everyone's life can be. Jaden would like to help people out in the future and be someone who people can look up to. So thank you for being here, Jaden. What would you like to share with us?
So about like the mental health as for me, really, it's not really more of asking, it's really more like how you know your child, because in order to approach a child, it's all different because people they want to approach you how you want to be approached. So like if you wanted to ask someone how your day was, some people would just say it's fine, and some people would explain the whole day. And getting to know how your child is, because some people could be introverts and some people could be extroverts, and depending on how you attack them and how you like explain to them, it can give a different answer. And I feel like for me as a person, I would usually say I'm fine, but that's not the whole thing, because I like keeping to myself. And in order to like kind of break them out that shell, you gotta really like dig deep and keep digging deep. Like every day, ask them how their day was. Like, because once they get into that routine, they'll start opening up to you more, and they'll feel like they could trust you. They feel like you could tell you things, and yeah.
Thank you, Jaden. That was really good insight. I appreciate that. So now
Wow.
we have, oh, go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I already have a million questions myself, and I feel like, Jaden, I really appreciated what you just said. I feel like what you just said, part of what I heard, what you just said is like, when your kid says I'm fine, that could just be something that your kid says, could be true, could be not true. And I think that's really helpful. And I think for me, sometimes as a parent, I don't always know when to keep asking and when to back up, right? Like when to push on that and when to, so that's one, and that's one question for anyone. If you have thoughts on like, you know, yeah, just that, like when to push, when to back up. And then I feel like you all talked about advocacy in a way. And I'm also really appreciated that, because I think as parents, sometimes we want to, or some of us want to like do the thing for our kids. And that's a sticky place too. Like sometimes I don't know if that feels like, if like what you would say to that, to the parent that always wants to sort of do the thing for their kid. Because I think you all talked about advocacy that made me, what I heard in that was like, it is important to give space and let young people advocate for themselves instead of the going in and fixing, right? So if anyone has thoughts about either of those things, I would love to hear it.
Like specifically, like when to push on it and when to stop.
Yeah, like, any thoughts about that? Like what does it feel like when, like, say, you're having a hard day and your parent says, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine, because maybe you don't want to talk about it in that moment. But the parent's like picking up on it. It was like, no, but you don't seem fine. Are you okay? Talk to me. Like, what is that like, right? What's that like for?
I'd be happy to speak on behalf
Thanks,
of
yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I say I'm fine when I either am fine, first of all, because that's honestly a valid thing that I say, or if I'm just not in the mood to talk about it for a bunch of reasons. It's not necessarily like the worst thing actually happened. Often it's because I'm tired. Often something like that. But if it is something that has been really bothering me, but I want to say that I'm fine, I think sometimes like grabbing onto that and saying like, you're not fine. Like, tell me what's going on. Like, I know you're not fine. Kind of makes it worse. Like, nobody wants to be pressured into like having to share what's going on. I think one of the biggest things to realize is that I'm fine doesn't necessarily mean that they are fine. It just means that they might not want to talk about it.
Yeah. What about you, David or Jaden or Bella? Any other thoughts about that?
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Either one.
Yeah, like what Bella said, oh no, Ella, sorry. Ella. Like what Ella said, yeah, saying I'm fine is like also is like you can like see, like if you look at them and you can tell by their hand gesture, their motion, like what they really like are doing. You could sort of tell like if they're fine or they're they're saying I'm fine just because they're either stressed or they just don't want to talk about it. They're not in a good mood, and like to keep nudging on, yeah, it just makes it worse, and it builds like more. It adds more stuff to the fire, and it would probably like more upset
Yeah.
So I feel like once you see that, you should kind of like back off and maybe approach them at a different time when they have like a better mood.
Yeah. So respect the I'm fine. Yeah. Because it
Yeah,
could
yeah,
make it worse. Yeah. Because it could make it worse. Yeah. Thank you.
I would also say that the phrase "actions speak louder than words" is a cliche one that's been used a billion times, but I think it's especially true when somebody says I'm fine and they're clearly not fine. So I think for teachers, they should obviously like look at the body language, look at their facial expressions. If they're clearly like acting in a rude way, or they have an attitude, or they're like I'm fine and they're not fine, then I think you should take that as they're saying I'm not fine, but I'm not ready to talk about it. So talk to me.
Nice. Yeah. I'm not fine, but I'm not ready to talk about it right now. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. Well, passing it back over to you, Lakeisha and Victor. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. You guys are doing a fantastic job, by the way. I'm learning a lot from you guys. So I'm going to start off with one of the a question. I didn't see anything in our chat as yet. So I'm just going to start off by asking one question to everybody. How has or how does social media impact your mental health or your mental well-being? It could sometimes, I don't know if it could be negative or positive, so you can look at it from both ways. So anybody is free to respond to that.
I can answer that.
Okay.
I know that for me personally, I feel like social media is a great way to like connect with my friends, and I really love that aspect of it. But at the same time, like I am someone who like with social media, like I will spend like hours on social media if I don't have anything to do, and it can get my attention span really like off balance. I notice that I'm very impatient, and I can be a lot more irritated when I spend a lot of time on social media. And so for me, I found that like setting hard boundaries with either time limits or even deleting apps, like especially during the school year, is the best way for me to regulate my usage. And it's definitely like it can feel like you're missing out because you kind of feel like you're losing that contact with your friends. But I think also at the same time, it's, like if I really want to like check something out, maybe I'll re-download an app and check it out and let myself have like an hour on the app. And then I'll either set like a time limit or I'll delete the app. And I think it's also like at the same time with friendships and connecting through social media, it's also about like learning how to balance your time and then learning also how to reach out to people in other forms, maybe like a text or a call, meeting up with people in person. Because it's really easy to not put in as much time and just send someone like a quick video or something. And I think like putting in that extra effort of like, all right, I'm going to reach out in a different way that I can reach out to also makes a huge difference.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you. That was great. Anybody else have thoughts about social media and how that's impacted you guys' mental well-being, either negative or positive?
I feel like for me, it's both positive and negative. Like to start with the positive, social media, it kind of like calms me down because I can relate to things and I can see how I can like do stuff in a certain way, or how it just makes me happy, and it makes me happy sometimes when I see stuff. And then there's also that negative side, that stuff that brings you down, the stuff that you don't want to see, and the stuff that just like makes you want to like just turn off your phone. Like there's also positive and negatives to social media, and I feel like it's more negative because you can find more negative stuff than you can find more positive stuff in this, and like right now currently in this generation.
That's helpful.
Yeah, by the way, sorry my camera's off. I'm in the car. So anyway, I okay, I think that some of the positives of social media is to build on to what Jaden was saying. You can definitely relate to some of the stuff. And I think sometimes people just need to laugh at things. And I think social media has evolved um into something that helps people laugh and feel happy, especially because of meme culture and how present it is in any social media you see. So I always think that laughing at something makes me feel better. So I think that's part of the positives. Obviously, there's a lot of negatives that we'll get into, but that's one of the positives of social media.
I mean, I'll say my piece. I think, like I like to think there's a lot of positives about social media, but for me, I sort of think like I sometimes struggle with social media because I don't like missing out with things. That's a big thing. I talked about that in the last panel, but I don't like missing out on things at all. And one of the things about social media is you can tell when you're missing out on things. And so, as much as I want to know what everyone's doing and I want to stay connected with people's lives, like I want to see people, their photos when, for example, when I graduated high school, I want to see all of my friends graduating high school, the ones that went to different schools. But I also, at the same time, can see like events that I'm missing out on. And in the back of my head, I'm sort of like, would I have been better off just not knowing that I missed out on this? Would I have been better off not knowing that these people who I thought were my friends are hanging out without me or something small like that? So I sort of view it as a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I would also like to add on to what Ella was saying. I feel like it's also a big distraction, and like having like that distraction there is like not really helpful, because it could distract you from school, it could distract you from the way you wake up in the morning, it could distract you the way you do like everything. So I feel like social media, like she said, yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Thank you, guys. Great answers. Thank you so much. Victor, do you have any questions for these young folks?
I do, and I just want to appreciate all of you for your questions, your answers, your honesty, and just everything, just being here. So thank you. This is so helpful to the people that are watching it live now, and also for the people that are going to watch this as it's on YouTube. So thank you for this. So I do have a question, and the question is, if you woke up and you had a magic wand and you could change something, what would that be around your parents that they could support you in a way that you would really, really want? So if you could just, how could they back you in a way when you're feeling not in the best place? If you had a magic wand and could make that happen, what would that be?
For me, I would say it's important for everybody to feel like they're loved. So, and I think toxic masculinity prevents everybody from knowing that. And if I could use a magic wand, it would be for people in general, not just parents or whatever. People in general to like understand love languages more. Sometimes people like physical affection, or they like to hear it verbally, or they like um gifts. But so I think that the one thing I would do and is to make everybody feel safe, is to know that they're loved, because I think that's important.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
That reminds me of what somebody said earlier about, I think Jaden, it was you, like kind of know your kid, right? To know, if you know your kid, then, you know, in those ways. So that's helpful, David.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think for me, like, I really appreciate like validation. I think that's huge, that like sort of goes unrecognized, because it's everywhere. Like, it's in every sort of conflict that you have, it's in every issue that your kid could be going through. I think either just validation that things are going to be okay, or that, like, you're going to get through it, because I do feel like oftentimes my issues I will make up bigger in my head, and oftentimes it makes me nervous to go to my parents, because oh my God, like, what if I get a terrible score on this test, and what are they going to think about it? And so some of the most helpful things that my parents have done has been like, like, this doesn't mean you're going to fail the class. This doesn't mean you're not going to graduate. And sort of like help me get into perspective. And then also validate that what I'm doing is normal and like regular, I guess. Because sometimes, like, when my parents are like, it's okay, like, you're fine. I cannot be fine, but it could still be normal and like, okay. Yeah, for me, just validation is something that I find huge.
Great point.
I feel like it could touch on David and Ella, because it's like, for me, my brother, he gives me validation. I already know what type of like love language he gives me. But with my dad, he has like tough love, so like it's kind of like hard to get that validation sometimes. But when I get it, I know that it's worth it. And I feel like knowing like helping your kid understand what type of like love language you give them would help them, because obviously sometimes, like, for me, for instance, when I was a little kid, I didn't know why my dad was getting hard on me and why he was hard on me. But now, since I grow up and I acknowledge what was happening, I know that he gives me tough love, but it's all from the heart. And when he gives me validation, like, he's truly proud of me, and that makes me feel good. And I feel like also, like, support is also a big thing for me, because like, either it's with athletics, or it's with school, or it's with things outside, like, I feel like being able to give that support is something that I really enjoy, because like, if it's either my mom showing up for a game, or it's my mom check, like, how are your grades? Oh wow, you're doing really good in school. Like, I feel like that really helps me, and it makes me push even harder than I was already pushing.
That's awesome.
Great. Thank you.
That does make me, this is a little quick add-on, but that does make me think, like, if you all can tell, or how can you tell when your parent is proud of you? Like how can you tell? Is it something parents say? Is it something they do? Do you feel like you get, like, how should parents, what advice do you have for parents around communicating that stuff?
Okay, well, I'll go. First of all, you can totally tell, at least in my perspective, like, in what aspects they are really proud of. I think for me, I've noticed that, like, sometimes just saying it isn't enough. Like, oh, like, I'm proud of you. And sometimes it is. And it's definitely, I'm not saying this, that you should no longer be telling your kid you're proud of them. But because that's also really important. But I also think showing them that you're proud of them, not just like telling them, is really key. Whether that be like, I don't know, like when I was in elementary school and I got like a smiley face on my poem and not a check, they would put it on the refrigerator. Looking back, that seems a little silly, because I don't even know if a smiley face was better than a check. Whatever. It was put on the refrigerator. And so that was something that I was like, oh, like, when everyone walks into my house, they're going to see that poem or whatever I did in elementary school. And my parents want everyone to see that. They want to see what I've accomplished, so I know that they are proud of that thing that I've done. And then if it's something that is more private and that you don't want, like, I know that my parents are proud of me for getting through mental health struggles and pushing through when times are tough, but I don't want that plastered on the fridge. Oh goodness. I don't want that plastered on the fridge, but reminding you of how far you've come can show that you're proud of them.
That's good.
Especially like when things get tough. I know that my parents are proud of me when they say, hey, like, things are hard right now, but this time last year you were in such a different space, and that's you. That's not coincidence. That was you working towards whatever goal you wanted to set out and achieve, and that it's not random. And so that has been words that have been given to me that I found really helpful and to the heart.
That's helpful. Thanks, Ella. All right. Sorry to hop in there, Victor.
It's great. No, good.
I would also like to add on, like I was saying before, comparing to my dad, like just recently, I got an offer to go to college for soccer, and I was speaking to my dad about it, and as the conversation was going on, he never said I was proud of you, but I knew deep down inside he was proud of me. By the way he was telling me, by the way he was looking at me, being interested, he was smiling too. So I knew deep down inside that he was proud of me. Obviously, and then obviously, like I knew also my brother knew that he was proud of me, because when we went upstairs, he was like, "Just know, I know he didn't say it, but he's proud of you." So I was like,
Yeah.
so that really helps too.
Yeah, that's really helpful. All the ways to convey it, which might not be saying it, but that body language, that connection, that kids are getting it, it's landing.
I also think this is another way as well, or another example I can give. A lot of the time, some people can hurt each other and then they have to apologize for it, but they don't really know how to apologize. So, I mean, you can also tell that with facial or body language as well, even if they're not saying it. And it helps, at least helps me forgive them, even if, they don't know how to say it.
Yeah. Super helpful.
So what I'm hearing is people, it's really helpful to have multiple ways to show. And that's not just get stuck in that one way of, even saying I love you, right? And those words are important and should be said, but showing is also important in different ways. So that's great. Thank you for bringing this up. It's good.
Well, I have a question as a parent of kids that also have mental health stuff going on. I'm wondering what makes it hard for you to communicate with your parents? What do they do or say that can make it really challenging for you to really share your thoughts, or might keep you from sharing what's going on? Anyone can answer, or do you guys want me to pick someone?
Bella, do you want to share? Oh, do you want to go Bella then Jaden?
Okay.
I definitely feel like something that keeps me from sharing, I think, is first off, like timing. I think a huge thing is like, if I'm not in a great mood and I don't want to talk about it, it can get really difficult when like my parents are like, oh, like I want you to talk about this. And I'm like, I do want to share with you, but like now is not a good time because I don't feel like I can maybe properly tell you how I feel, or I can like appropriately express to you my feelings right now without getting upset or getting angry. So I think like timing is a huge thing. And I think another thing that sometimes keeps me from sharing is feeling like if I want to share and my parents aren't, maybe they're busy. I think that also really feels like a way of like shutting me down, even when they don't realize it. Maybe I like try and talk to them and sit down and they're kind of busy, they're on their phones, they're working, they're kind of not there, and they don't realize that I'm trying to like talk about something that really is important. And then the moment kind of passes and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't want to talk about this anymore. For me personally, it kind of makes me feel like, oh, like I don't feel like this is an important topic. I know that's not the case, but sometimes it can feel like, oh, like this isn't that interesting or it's not that important to them. And that makes it harder to share in the future.
Mhm.
And so I think it's kind of one of those things where it has to be like a habit where you are there when someone wants to talk about it and you show them like, I want to listen to you, and like I'm willing to make the time to listen to you. It's like if I'm busy right now, like let's like get lunch and talk about it over lunch, or let's like go for a walk and talk about it for a walk like in 20 minutes. And creating that habit of like you can come to me rather than just hoping that like it'll happen on a once-off chance. It's like building that habit and building that feeling of like it's safe to talk to each other.
Yeah, that's good, Bella.
Yeah. For me, I feel like it's judgment, feeling judged, like when I'm talking or when I try to like express how I feel or what's happening. I feel like I'm scared of judgment, even though it might not come, but sometimes it might. I'm
Yeah,
scared to get the answer that I don't want.
yeah,
I feel like it doesn't really help me at all, because like when I get judged, I feel like I can't open up to you anymore and I can't tell you how my true feelings are. And then also another thing is like whatever stays inside the room stays inside the room. Sometimes I don't feel like it could come out. I feel like a lot of times it could come out the room and people know about my true feelings, and something like I just open up to that one person and it starts spreading. So that's also a big part of it too for me.
I love that. That's so helpful. Though all three of those things that you each shared, that the timing, can I trust that I'm not going to be judged with this thing I want to share with you? Yeah. And then can I trust that it's going to stay here? I don't want all the neighbors know about it. Yeah, that's helpful.
Does Ella or Jaden want to share anything on that?
Or David, I mean?
I'm sorry, David. Jaden just shared. Thank you, Jaden.
Sure. I mean, I definitely agree with the fear of judgment, or also fear of not getting the response that I need. And I think that that's something that is hard, and it's hard because I know that sometimes when my parents are tired, maybe when they're involved in the conflict or whatever has been making me feel upset, that I know that if I go to them, I might not get the response that I want. And so taking a step back and realizing like, I want to go to them and I want a certain response back, but I know that they aren't in a space to give that to me. So instead, I just need to take space. I think that's really hard.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that keep me from going to my parents, or kept me from going to my parents, is just because I know that they aren't in a space to either validation or help me work through something or give me advice. And I feel like that's really common when the conflict is actually between the two of us or three of us, or how the family. I feel like that's pretty common. So yeah, I don't know. That would be the biggest thing that keeps me from talking to them.
Thanks. Great. Do we have more questions?
I have a question and this is for everybody. What are your guys' hopes for the future? How do you guys envision your future? It could be after, graduation, maybe when you're an adult, if you become a parent. Like, what do you guys see, what your hopes are for the future?
One of my hopes for the future is definitely to fulfill my dreams, obviously, get the major I want, get a job that's well paying, have a family, right? But also I want to be one of those like adults that is more forward thinking and is not so stuck on the past and is willing to hear out the new generation. Basically what we're teaching you, and I applaud you guys, and I'm honored that you guys would want to listen to me and listen to what the younger generation has to say. And I want to be like one of those adults because I want to be one of those people that are looked in a positive light when it comes to the history books.
Mm. I have no doubt you will be.
I love that.
Yeah.
I can go. I'm like excited and also scared that you asked this because I'm in college, and so I do feel like that's been asked a lot by like everyone. So I have a response. I think for me, I struggle with looking to the future because sometimes I worry that if I set a goal that's really big and I don't achieve it, that's hard. I have like some big picture ideas, but I also know that things happen. If you were to ask me 5 years ago where I thought I'd be, I don't think I'd be here. So my concrete responses are, I want to be a Hill turn, which is being an intern on Capitol Hill. That's the one thing that I want to be, that fingers crossed I'm working towards. Hopefully maybe by next year, which is exciting. And then I think the other goal that I have is just to be at peace. I think that I've noticed that is that it's okay to not always be happy, but to sort of be at peace, and ideally not sad or struggling. But if you can't always be happy, be at peace. So that's more like
Wise.
other than just internships.
Cool.
For me, the future would be for my parents to not be working, obviously, for them to have a good retirement home, a good place to stay. And then also a big thing that I want to do before I leave this world is I want to leave my name behind, so people could like look back and remember like who am I, like what was me, like who is this person. Like I just want my name to be last, like I want it to be known. And I feel like when I accomplish that goal, I feel like I don't really have anything in mind for the future. And another big one is also making my family proud, because I've always wanted to get that validation from everybody and feel like, damn, I made it. So that's my big goal, to make it.
They are proud. I'm pretty sure they are very proud of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can go. I think definitely a good question. I'm a senior in high school, so I'm definitely giving a lot of thought to what I'm going to do in the future. I'm still not really sure on a lot of things. I do know that I want to do some sort of work with people. I definitely want to do something, hopefully like in the medical field, maybe, or like physical therapy, or like a dietitian. And definitely something where I can help people who have struggled with mental health or mental illness. I think like it's a tough field also, because some people have really great people who help them, and then some people have these people who aren't great. And I really want to be someone who can help people have a positive experience. I know that in my care, like people, like my therapist has been someone who's been hugely helpful in helping me get better and helping myself become a better person and mature. And I want to help people in the way that I've been helped, because I know that the way that I've been helped has completely changed me as a person. The support that I've received has formed me into who I am. And without that support, I think I'd be a very different person. And I don't know necessarily that if I'd be a better person. I think I might not be. And so I hope that, in my future, I can be someone who can help people become better people, however that is.
Wow.
Thank you. We need all of you guys.
Yeah. I already know you all are doing these things, right? All these like beautiful, beautiful hopes you have for yourselves. We hear it tonight. We hear it in this conversation.
Absolutely.
That, and you're already impacting people with with these things. And yeah. I actually had is it okay if I hop a question in here? I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Okay. It made me, one of you said something, all of you were saying things made me think about it, but when we think about like mental health and parents, what do you think that, what should parents be talking to kids about mental health? Like sort of proactively, like what are conversations that you think things parents should talk about with kids about either what mental health is, or, you know, depression, anxiety, you know, any of these things? Like, what should those conversations be? What should we be talking to our kids about?
And when should
And
we
when?
start? Yeah, because I got a little one, a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Good question. Good. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, for me, I feel like there should always be a time where you just check up on your kid, let them know how they're doing. Obviously, in a good time when they're like not too busy, they don't look stressed, they don't look mad, they're in a good mood. I feel like sit there, talk to them about what they want to do when they grow up, or what they want to be when they grow up, like, or what they want to do. Like, I feel like then after you get that, I feel like then you can start forming into a conversation about like, so like, how you been? Like, talk to me. Like, I feel like you can't just go straight. So how's your mental health? Like, I feel like approaching a person like that, obviously you're not gonna get the answer you want. So I feel like you have to build up to a conversation that you could get a bigger answer out of if you build it up right.
That's helpful. That's helpful.
Yeah, I think you mentioned like when, and I think when it comes to mental health, it's never too early to start learning about how to take care of yourself, because mental health it's important to take care of your mental health just as much as it is like your physical health, brushing your teeth, stuff like that. And you obviously, I assume your kid brushes his or her teeth. So I think like when it comes to skills, and taking care of yourself and sort of like what taking care of your mental health looks like, modeling that is super important. And then also it can start small and just sort of like breathing, like when your kid is, you know, like crying or having a hard time. And then also sort of, I think normalizing mental health can be really helpful. Showing that like mental health doesn't define you. It certainly isn't. It's something that you have to work on. In my opinion, like forever. I think mental health is always something that you should be working on or being conscious of, but also modeling that, you know, you don't have to be great all the time, especially for younger kids, modeling that it's okay if life is sort of like waves, if there's, you know, like really great moments and there's really hard moments. And sometimes hard moments can be all at once, all in a row. And that's hard, but it doesn't mean that there's no more good moments coming. And I think just modeling that, obviously explaining it based on their age level and their understanding. But skills, I think, can happen early. I think it's never too early to start learning how to take care of yourself.
That's helpful. So I'm hearing him with both of those, one being like the connection, like the connection, the relationship, and nurturing that relationship in those conversations. And the other is talking about self-care, right? How we care for our minds and our bodies. And yeah. Bella, were you going to say something? Did I hop on you?
No, not at all. I was just going to add that I think it's also like, it's really important to start from a young age just validating feelings, because I think, you know, feelings are obviously tied to mental health, of course, but I think, you know, validating and like talking about like, not just like, how was your day at school, but if something happens, like, how does that make you feel? And obviously it's kind of a difficult question because, you know, as you grow, you have to change how you react and how you act with your kids. So I think it's a difficult question, but I think a huge thing is just talking from a young age of like, oh, you're sad. Like, all right, like, let's talk about that, and building that relationship of like, let's be comfortable talking about these feelings. And it's like also understanding that like emotions aren't always going to be clear cut, especially as you get older. Like, you might be sad and you might be angry and you might have like a lot of different feelings at once. And, you know, breaking down the root of why you feel that way. And then also, I guess, how you can be supported.
Super helpful.
Yeah, also like
Very
something,
helpful.
yeah, something for me, I overthink everything. So like overthinking is also it's kind of hard because as me right now, I overthink every little thing. Like if my mom would say like for instance, like how did you do on your test? I'd be like, is she gonna think is she gonna be mad at me? Is she gonna be disappointed? Is she gonna be happy? Like all of those things come into factor. So you gotta make them think less and speak more, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting.
All right. Well, I think we're coming to a close here. Did anyone else want to share anything before we finish here?
Well,
All
I'll
right.
just quickly say, I just learned a lot. I just learned a whole lot, both as a fellow human with you all, but also as a parent. And I just want to really thank you because there were a lot of nuggets in there and I was taking notes. So I thank you.
Well, me too, as a parent as well. So I just want to kind of share, like, thank you for those pearls of wisdom. I think some of the things that stood out for me was, number one, as parents, we need to listen more and we need to validate what our young people are saying and feeling, and listen to them when they're advocating for themselves, especially those of us that are teachers. I'm a teacher. And show great empathy. I really love what, just some of the little things, like show your kid that you love them and tell them how you show them you love them. I feel like I've learned so much about that. And then finally, I think the big like kind of end piece that I think is really important to really think about is that we should be talking about mental health over the span of everyone's lives, and it changes throughout our lifetime, and that no one has perfect mental health all the time, and that we should be normalizing it. So thank you for saying that. And that, we need to be more comfortable talking about it and talking about feelings and unpacking them, and what do they feel like? And, how does that feel for you? I love all that stuff. And I'm definitely going to bring that into my practice. So thank you, you guys. I want to remind everyone that we have these parent learning series once a month. Next month, it'll be the first Tuesday of the month. And I have forgotten what the next month's series is. Which I had that up. Maybe Megan can share that with us really quick.
Sure. It's next month. It's about communicating around conflict, big feelings and hot tempers. So learning about, when feelings are hot, when things are like, when there's a lot of arguing at home with your kid, how to best communicate during those times.
And then we have a flyer that is linked in the chat. You can look it over. The second Tuesday of the month, we have a parent support group where it's elementary based, and we'll be talking on our topic from this series. The third Tuesday of the month is a middle school based group. And then our last Tuesday of the month, we have an affinity group. It's a BIPOC affinity group for members to join as well. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for having me.
Aiden. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great one. I'm gonna
Have a good night.
You all too.
Good night.
I'm gonna stop this.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.